judge you when you're with somebody else, long as you swear you won't be. What? Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. Hold on. Did a listener just catch me singing the lyrics to Dua Lipa's We're Good? And did they just catch me recording an episode? Oh my goodness. I think it's true. I'm gonna come clean. The podcast is back. Love it or hate it, we're back. And I'm very glad to be back. Whether you're new or whether you're a loyal fan, we're back. And I hope you enjoy. I've got an excellent interview lined up for today. Cecily is on the podcast today. Before we start, I have my mandatory Netflix reviews and fun facts. But I'm just going to go through these very quickly for the benefit of the listener. So, Netflix reviews will consist of one series, and I could list off a lot more series, and I could go into depth, much more depth, about the one series I'm covering. However, I will just give you this one series, and that series is Queen's Gambit. Now, Queen's Gambit, I was actually telling my friend about this show, and he asked me, he said, Nicholas, is Queen's Gambit Netflix good? Or is it good? And I straight up told him it is genuinely incredibly good. No matter what standard you look at Queen's Gambit, it is a 10. Alright? It's a 10 in my heart. It's a 10 in my dad's heart. And I'm heading to Rotten Tomatoes as I speak. Rotten Tomatoes. And I'm going to search Queen's Gambit. Queen's Gambit. Oh, there it is. And what score do I get? I get a 97. What? A 66 app? Oh my gosh. What? 66 average audience score. I'm sorry. The average tomato meter, meaning the critic score, used to be 100. And it is no longer the case. It is a 97. And the average score is a 66, which is absolute blasphemy. Queen's Gambit is one of the best series I've ever seen. It is an incredibly not deep. It's just amazing. Go watch Queen's Gambit. All right? Go watch it. Just go watch it. Nothing else to say. Now we move on to fun facts. Fun facts. Yes. It is time for fun facts. And now I will proceed to enlighten you with some funky, fresh knowledge that kind of sort of has something to do with the interview. My fun fact today is about homeschooling because I'm interviewing my friend Cecily, who is homeschooling. The fun fact is Emma Watson, the actress who plays Hermione Granger in the Harry Potter movie series, was indeed homeschooled. Yes. The facts are true. You can look up the URL in the episode description because I do not plagiarize here on this podcast. Alright. I try to make Netflix reviews and fun facts today short so we can get into the interview so you can have time to do whatever you want once you're done with the show. But that is none of my business. We're done here. Enjoy. Hello, we are recording. So today, for the listeners, we have Cecily. Say hello, Cecily.
Hi everyone.
Cecily she's not a longtime friend. She's a friend since the 6th grade, which I don't know if you would consider long time.
I mean, that's kind of long, depending on how many friends you've had and how long your friendships have lasted.
That is true. It's all on perspective. Well, take it as you will. She's here. And today, this episode is kind of in contrast to my second episode where I interviewed three seniors about high school. Cecily, she said no to high school. She said high school. Who is she?
You make me sound like a dropout.
I do, I do. But she is not dumb by any means, and she
Thank you for that.
she hopes to continue her education. So we're gonna get into all of that. So you plan on going to college, correct?
At the moment, yes.
Okay. And do you have like a certain degree in mind?
Not specifically. I know what career path I want to follow. I'm interested in the entertainment industry, specifically video editing, but also long-term goal is television production and directing, things like that. But I've done research and stuff like that, and it's really grad school that's the important degree. So I don't really have a specific degree in mind for undergrad other than just story-based things. So think like English literature, film, obviously, things that would prepare you for a storytelling career like one in television.
Okay. So I did not know all those details. This is going to be a learning experience for me too. I don't know like the required stuff you need to get into college and then that graduate degree. So what's your plan for that? Like
All
how
right,
do you get to that?
well, first of all, you obviously have to take like SATs and ACTs and stuff like that. So I'm doing kind of a combination of homeschooling and unschooling, which are two similar concepts, but also very, very different. Usually, homeschooling is a bit more structured, and you're kind of just doing what you would do at school at home, is the case for some people. And unschooling is typically kind of just free reign, study whatever you find interesting. So, for example, Nicholas, you really like electronics and things like that.
That's true.
If you were an unschooler, you could spend all day that you usually there's a requirement for how many hours of school a day, but you could spend all day just researching phones, and that would be considered your day of school.
Wow.
So I'm doing a combination, I guess, where I have the requirements to graduate for my state, and I'm going to meet those requirements through online courses and taking tests that kind of show that I know the material and things like that. And so I will technically graduate high school without actually going to high school. And
Okay.
so first I'm going to do that. I'm going to take SATs, ACTs, whatever tests I need to take. I haven't really thought that far ahead.
Right.
And then I will fill out college application like normal high schoolers would do and apply to
Okay.
colleges.
Right. So when did you make the decision? High school is not for me. When did you say that?
Well, I started realizing around, I think, 6th and 7th grade that the traditional school wasn't working for me. It was after I discovered my love for video editing. I used to go to public school, and then I switched to private school because it was too easy. The classes were too easy. I was too far ahead of everyone else, and I needed more of a challenge.
Okay.
And so for elementary school, school was just keeping me busy. It was giving
Right.
me something to exercise my mind with. But once I discovered something I'd much rather be spending my time on, something I was more passionate about, school became a chore. And I've always been an introvert. I've always preferred being alone with myself. I love people. I do love people, but I find them really exhausting in large doses. And so going to school every day and seeing a bunch of people was so draining. I would get home on Fridays and collapse in bed and not leave my room until Sunday morning because I was
Wow.
so tired. And so it was keeping me from doing other things that I'd want to do, like spending time with my friends, volunteer opportunities. Like all of my extroverted friends are getting all these crazy volunteer hours, and I've never just had the energy to do it, even though I've wanted to. And I think around spring of 7th grade, I got kind of depressed because I was so exhausted and drained all the time, and school was not doing it for me anymore. And I spent that entire summer just recovering from the strain and stress of school. Like I did almost nothing that summer because I was so tired from the whole school year. And so 8th grade, I already had decided I wanted to do entertainment industry. I've already decided I wanted to do video editing. And so my parents and I were trying to figure out how to make that happen, what would be the best route for that. And we were quickly discovering that school, traditional school, the school I was at, was not doing it for me, because the path it leads you on as a college preparatory school is honors classes, AP classes, super high SAT, ACT scores, applying to Ivy League colleges, going to those Ivy League colleges and getting top grades, then maybe even going to grad school and becoming a lawyer or a doctor or something like that.
Right.
And that's not the path I want to go on. And you don't need to go to an Ivy League school or even like a super duper nice school. Like, you don't need that for the path I want and for the career I want. But knowing the kind of person I am, I know I'd be pressured, because I am capable of doing that, into following that path.
Right.
So we considered public school for a little while, but that wouldn't solve the introversion problem. And eventually we started doing research into homeschooling, which I was initially against because of the stereotype about homeschooling that is just for people that are either super religious or are too socially off to. So I was a bit anti-homeschooling originally, but I eventually warmed up to it after I did some more reading about it. And I saw all these different opportunities that were available to me. If I did homeschooling, I'd have so much more free time. Of course, this was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of, sort of like summer camp things that I could have potentially done that were like filmmaking camps, and I would be less tired from them. There was, it was just a lot of stuff. I can't think of it all right now because I don't have like a list or anything.
Right.
But there are a lot of more opportunities. So it was around, I think, February of this year when I started really taking the idea seriously. And I discovered all these online college courses that I could take instead of high school courses.
Right.
And I could, even get college credits. Like, I could get college credits as right now by taking online college courses. I don't think it would count everywhere, but it's really satisfying to take a college course and be like, I took a college course. I took one in human reproduction over the summer. So it was I think it was 2 weeks before our school closed for coronavirus that we had decided, all right, we are going to do homeschooling. And then school closed. And it was like a trial run almost, because we were doing virtual school, which was quite similar to what homeschooling would be like.
Right.
And I loved it.
Really?
I loved it. Well, until our school decided it had to be more structured and made us attend those required classes at specific times that were in person. Well, not in person, but, live classes. I hated that.
Yeah.
But the first, I think, month before they introduced the constant live classes, I was so happy. I was the least stressed I've ever been, like, since I was a little kid. I was just so happy. It was amazing. And yeah, so it acted as a trial run. Coronavirus did. So if anything, that's a silver lining, is discovering that, I did really like homeschooling.
Yeah.
And I've been doing homeschooling since July 1st, because that's when the school year kind of starts for the umbrella school, which is what you have to sign up for to do homeschooling. You have to find an umbrella school.
Right. Okay.
Well, I'm sure there's a way you don't have to, but that's just like, it's really easy. So we did that. And the school year started on July 1st, and I've been doing homeschooling ever since.
Wow. Okay. So what is a day in the life for homeschool Cecily?
All right. Well, I wake up between 7 a.m. and 8:30.
Okay.
It depends on the day and what I'm planning on doing and how late I stayed up.
That's true.
And most mornings, Monday through Friday, I will get up and go on a walk with my parents and the dogs. We have 2 dogs. And then after that, I get home, and sometimes I eat breakfast while we're walking. I'll like take an energy bar or something, because I'm never hungry initially in the mornings. And then I shower, and usually around 10 a.m., somewhere between 9:30 and 10:30 a.m., I get started on school. I have been learning Korean and Spanish.
Okay.
You have to do 4 hours a day of studying for it to count as a school day.
Right.
So I will usually do about an hour of Korean or Spanish. I try to alternate days on those.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do an hour of, at the moment, English for an AP English course. It's an online course by UC Berkeley.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's AP English, and I just finished Frankenstein for it. Actually, right before this, I just finished the book. And for a while before the English course, I took a human reproduction course based out of the University of Adelaide in Australia.
Cool. It's crazy.
And I finished that. And I'm using an online resource to keep all of these from all these different colleges, and they're from all over the world: Australia, China, the United States,
Mm-hmm.
like everywhere. Those are just the three places that came to mind. They have a lot of classes based out of China.
Mm-hmm.
And there's pretty much anything you could possibly want for learning online. But there are tons of resources. You wouldn't think it, but there are so many. It's almost overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do Korean, Spanish, English at the moment. I am currently brushing up on my U.S. history because we learned U.S. history in 8th grade. So I'm using Khan Academy to review U.S. history.
Yeah.
And so I will then take a CLEP exam, which I can't remember what CLEP stands for, but basically it's a college level exam. It does count for some colleges as college credit. Not all colleges accept it. For example, the University of Tennessee does not accept it as college credits, but it does prove that you know the material. And
Okay.
that's really all I'm doing it for, is to prove that I know U.S. history and I don't need to take it again because I know U.S. history and I'm tired of taking it and I want to learn about something else.
Right.
I'm doing world history as well because I love history, and I'm reading this book for it, using it as a textbook. It's called The Silk Roads, and it's world history told from the point of view of Asia. So
Oh,
instead of the
cool.
typical Western point of view, which
Mm-hmm.
starts usually around, like, it teaches Mesopotamia and stuff like that, but then it goes to Greece, talks about the Greeks, talks about the Romans, then
Right.
talks about medieval Europe, then
Mm-hmm.
talks about the Renaissance, then talks about exploration to the Americas, and then US history follows.
Okay.
Instead of that, it talks about Mesopotamia and then Asia, and then
Right.
different Western things that happened. It talks about Greece from the point of view of Asia. It talks about the Romans from the point of view of Asia. And so it's quite enlightening because in the US school system, they don't usually talk much about Asia unless it directly influenced the West.
Right. Exactly.
Unless it's like they don't talk much about Japan unless we're talking about World War II, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm finding that very interesting. The book is very dense, but fascinating.
Right.
And I've currently paused it to really focus on US history.
Mm-hmm.
I'm planning on retaking algebra because I took it in middle school, but I'm not super fond of algebra. And so I would just kind of remember enough to pass a test and then forget the information. So I want to retake it. And I'm going to take a college level algebra course, I think,
Okay.
starting in, I think, about September, probably once I finish this English course.
Yeah.
Instead of taking one class all year, like you would do in regular school, I'm trying to do them more in chunks. So like focus really hard on a couple of subjects at once and then move on to a couple of subjects
Right.
instead of doing like 6 subjects all year.
Yeah. So let's take a quick break. What are like benefits and drawbacks to homeschool?
Okay. Well, as an introvert, a benefit is I don't have to spend all day around people.
Right.
If you were an extrovert, that would be a major drawback because you get energy from being around people.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I get energy from not being around people, so it's fantastic. Another benefit is I can do school in my pajamas.
That is nice. That's nice.
A benefit is I can study more flexibly, so I can study things that I wouldn't be able to study at school. Like I mentioned, I took up Korean. I started studying Korean, and normally I just wouldn't really have the time to study that, and it's not offered at my old school. Like it's not offered at like pretty much any schools in the area.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I normally would just not have as much time to do, and I'm able to devote quite a bit of time to that. Classes that I'm not satisfied with, I don't have to take. Like if you're at high school and you want to learn Spanish, but your Spanish class sucks, you still have to take the Spanish class for a language requirement.
Mhm.
Whereas me, I don't have to take the sucky Spanish class. I can take a Spanish class that's actually good.
Yeah.
A drawback is if you are someone that prefers a more rigid schedule,
Mhm.
then you would have to put in the effort to make your schedule rigid.
Yeah.
Like the freedom is a major plus, but can also be a drawback depending on the type of person you are.
Mhm. When I had online school, what you called the trial run, like it was going good, and I think I enjoyed the month-long period before they had constant live classes like daily. It depends on how rigid it is. I don't think I like the rigidity at home. It just messed with me. But I'm
Yeah,
I'm really excited to get back. I'm much more of an extrovert than Cecily here is. So I'm very excited for school
yeah.
to start very soon.
I I'm thinking more about homeschooling drawbacks and things like that. At
Mhm.
the moment, we are in a pandemic, so not having to go to school and potentially expose yourself to coronavirus is a plus.
Yeah.
But a negative is that it's lonelier,
Yeah. It's just
which even though I'm an introvert, I do like people. So I have found myself a little lonely, but I think
mm,
that's mostly because of the pandemic, because normally I would be able to go see friends on the weekends when I'm not
mhm,
doing school, you know?
exactly. So speaking of the pandemic, you said that during the trial run, your mental health was great. So do you think that's continued on?
Mm, I'd say it's not as bad as it could be. It was
Okay.
really good at the beginning of the trial run because I'd spent so much time at school that
Right.
it was recharging,
Okay.
and I wasn't yet quite lonely because I hadn't been at home for so long.
Hmm.
Then once we started doing the online classes, I found that really frustrating. And so that declined my mental health,
Right.
but that didn't have anything to do with the pandemic or homeschooling. It was just that I didn't like the constant live classes.
Okay.
Once summer started, that's when I started getting kind of lonely because I'd been locked up. Well, not locked up, obviously. Like I
Yeah.
go on walks and stuff. I can leave
Hmm.
my house, but I hadn't spent much time with people at all, other than my parents and my dogs, and through like FaceTime situations,
Hmm.
in over 2 months.
Right.
So currently, I think my anxiety is about the same as it
Uh,
would normally be,
Okay.
but it's a different kind of anxiety. It's triggered by the pandemic and being at home all the time
Hmm.
and not having the same freedom that I used to go hang out with friends or to go to restaurants or to go to just like, places in general because my family's taking it really seriously.
Hmm.
So my anxiety has not been super fantastic, but my overall mental health, I'd say, has been better than it was when I was at school.
Okay. Okay.
So far, homeschooling has made me happier. The pandemic has just negatively impacted my
Yeah.
mental health.
Yeah. Do you think you regret like missing out on like the cliche high school experience? I think I know what your answer is going to be, but like,
I thought about this a lot
mhm,
before I committed to homeschool. So around like January and February, I spent a
yeah,
lot of time thinking about this, especially since the school was preparing eighth graders and hyping them up for high school.
exactly. Yeah.
So our school had every eighth grade student shadow a high schooler, usually either a freshman or a sophomore, and go through the high school day with them. And I did that, and it was super fun. I quite liked it.
Mm,
Uh, I enjoyed the classes that we went to. I came home that night and I told my mom about it, and I was super excited. And that was January. And so I continued thinking about that while I was trying to decide what I wanted to do.
mhm,
And I compared it to the first day of school. The first day of school, you're always really, at least in my case, I was always really excited because I get easily excited about things. And I did enjoy school, I enjoyed learning. And so it was fun.
mm,
However, when I thought more about doing that every day and how as the school year goes on, I get more and more exhausted and more drained, almost that one day of the high school experience was enough for me.
oh, wow.
Like I know what it would be like if that's what pretty much every day is like, then that's
Mhm,
what high school in general, just like the actual school aspect of it is.
mhm,
I thought about how pretty much all that I know about high school is from television and movies. And
Right.
when I was little, I'd watch, Disney Channel, and most of those were set in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and how much I looked forward to high school. But hearing actual high schoolers talk about high school, it's not television and it's not a movie. It's stressful, and you're trying to pass exams, and it's not all fun and games. And so I found it easy to make peace with not doing the high school experience, because I knew logically it wasn't going to be all fun. It
Right.
wasn't going to be the television, Hollywood, glamorized high school experience. And the aspects of school that I disliked outweighed the positives, in
Right.
my mind, at least.
Mm-hmm.
But for, I think, January and February, it was actually really rough for me to come to terms with stopping with school here and
Mm-hmm.
not doing the high school experience. Not necessarily because I wanted to do high school, but more because I had always been told that was what I would be doing with my life.
Yeah.
Like, it's a societal expectation. And so having that societal expectation and then being told, you can do something different, your initial response is going to be, why would I ever want to do that? Why would I ever want to do something different when this is what I've been told I should do my whole life?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's similar to people that decide not to go to college, especially with like the millennial generation, where a lot of them wound up not going to college and their parents were disappointed in them and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
College isn't for everybody. It can be hard to come to terms with, because you've been told ever since you were a little kid, by the media, by your parents, by everybody, that this is the way your life goes. You go elementary school, middle school, high school, college, job.
Yeah.
And personally, I still want to go to college, but I don't really want to do traditional high school. And so, to answer your question, no, I don't. At this moment, I don't regret missing out on the high school experience. Call me up in 4 years and ask me if I still don't regret missing out on the high school experience.
Right.
But at the moment, I don't have any regrets about my decision.
Okay. Cool. So do you have grades and like a GPA? Is that
Yeah,
still like okay?
that's the thing. You get a grade, like for the online courses, they give you a grade afterwards, because there's like graded material and essays and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that grade goes into my grade book that my mother keeps track of. And then for classes that are not structured like online classes, for example, the world history
Right.
that is being designed by me and my mom,
Mm-hmm.
she will be the one to, this is actually kind of crazy. She's the one that grades me. So for that, she reads my essays about world history or whatever. She looks at my homework and gives me what she feels is an appropriate grade.
Okay.
So obviously she could give me all A's even if I was doing F material,
Right.
but that's not what's happening, because I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah.
And she's not that kind of person. She's like the kind of person to tell me to rewrite an entire essay because it was bad. Yeah, so she's the one to give me my grades, which is kind of hard to get used to at first, because it's weird that your
Mm-hmm.
mother is grading you.
Yeah.
But also, I'm not the kind of person that's going to slack just because I know my mother will be grading me. And also,
Mm-hmm.
my mother's not the kind of person to stand for that. So it's not really that hard, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do get grades. I will have a GPA, and let's hope it's good.
Okay. So this is kind of like a wrap up to finish us off. Do you think that skipping high school is for everyone, or is for more people?
I think if you listen to a lot of my previous answers, you can tell that I keep specifying the kind of person I am
Mm-hmm.
and how this works for me. I don't think it's the right option for everybody. I think traditional school works for a lot of people, and I'm just the kind of person that doesn't. Between the combination of discovering my passion really early in life and being an introvert, and being someone that is passionate about learning, I think this was the correct choice for me. But someone that isn't so passionate about learning might find themselves just not doing school if they don't have the pressure of parents or teachers. If you're someone that is not very ambitious and not very driven, then this could be a recipe for disaster. If you're someone that's an extrovert and being at home all day sounds awful, then it wouldn't be the right choice for you. If you're someone who doesn't know what they want to do with their life, then I think traditional school could be good, because then you try all these different courses and meet all these different people and do a bunch of different, just you get more exposure to a lot of different things, and kind of the benchmark of you've taken these classes and these are the required classes to graduate. So I don't think homeschool is for everyone. I think there are a lot more people that could benefit from homeschool than they realize, because society tells you, you're supposed to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the pandemic is leading a lot of people to realize that they actually quite like online school, and they like it more than they thought they would. And maybe they should continue this even after the pandemic. And I think it's leading a lot of people to realize, no, traditional school is definitely the correct route for me, and this sucks.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the pandemic has obviously brought a lot of things to light, just about people and about themselves and about society and how different countries deal with these kinds of things. I mean, this is not a COVID discussion. That is not our purpose here today.
But yeah, if you're someone that is relating to me and my struggles, or if you're someone that is just dissatisfied with traditional school, there are other options out there. There's unschooling, there's homeschooling, there is traditional school, there's, in some places, depending on how old you are, Montessori schools. There's just so many different options out there that don't get noticed because of society
Wow.
and the culture and stereotypes that don't get given the recognition they deserve, because it's not the typical path. But not being the typical path doesn't make it the wrong path.
Right. Interesting. I hope it was as interesting as I thought. But this was fun. This was good. I'm glad I got to hear your voice and say hello. And I think we are done here. So goodbye. Stay healthy.
Bye, everyone.
And
stay healthy.
Yeah. Let's end this like we should and say we're... Oh my goodness. Look! You've caught me singing Dua Lipa again, and you've made it to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening. I greatly appreciate the support. For context, this interview was recorded in August of 2020, officially certifying that I am the laziest podcast maker on earth. Congratulations to me. I don't get a trophy, unfortunately. But we're back. Like I said, I actually have an interview planned for this weekend, meaning that the podcast is coming. A new episode of the podcast is coming either this weekend or the week after that. Preferably next weekend, because I know the fans want the podcast. I'm extremely grateful to the friends that convinced me to bring it back. I'm doing this for you guys and for myself and for a lot of reasons. I like this podcast. It's coming back. Thank you so much. If you would like to be part of the episode, if you would like to thank me for coming back, if you would like to voice your hatred for my voice, you can go to anchor.fm/NicholasK. That's ANCHOR.FM/my name, and you will see my podcast page. There you'll see a little button. It says message. There you can leave a message. You will most likely be featured on the podcast if you leave a message. It is very easy for me to put your message into the podcast. Your voice will be heard by my entire audience. Leave a message. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day, and goodbye.